I became involved in politics. 1832, I ran for my first election and found out what it was like to lose an election. About 5 years later, I gave a political speech on the dangers facing our country, not from a foreign country, but from within our borders. At what point, then, are we to expect the danger to approach? I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up amongst us, and not from abroad. As a nation of freemen, we must live through all time, or die by suicide. Well, with that momentum, I ran in 1838 for the Speaker of the Legislature and lost. 1840, ran again and lost. 1843, another election and another loss. But in 1848, I ran again. This time I ran against a preacher who invited me to hear him preach. From the pulpit, he said, the Bible says there has only been one perfect man and says nothing about a perfect woman. From the back, a woman's voice, I know that there has been a perfect woman. I know this because I've heard about her every day for the past 20 years. Who is this perfect woman? My husband's first wife. Then he got his congregation all fired up. All those who wish to go to heaven, please rise. Everybody stood up but me. All those who do not wish to go to hell, please rise. Again, I remained seated. He looked over at me and said, it appears everyone here except you, Abe Lincoln, wish to go to heaven and do not wish to go to hell. Now I ask you, Mr. Lincoln, where you wish to go, heaven or hell? I stood up and said, neither. Yet, I'm going to Congress. And I won. Well, I wasn't very popular in Washington, partially due to the fact that I opposed the spread of slavery to the new territories to the west. But I really made enemies when I opposed President Polk and his Mexican War. In a speech before Congress, I said the President has stated that this war was started when Mexican troops shed American blood on American soil. I demand that the President show us the exact spot on the map where this occurred. He cannot, for he knows full well that he sent American troops right into the middle of a Mexican settlement, and that's where the first blood of this war was shed. The President is only seeking military glory. That attractive rainbow that rises in showers of blood. It was an impressive speech, but I was promptly dispatched back to Springfield, unwelcome in Washington, and branded a traitor at home. So, ran for 1858. I ran for Senate for the second time. Some folks thought I was washed up in politics, but no. You see, now the country was severely divided over this issue of slavery. Only now the controversy had a face. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Mr. Dred Scott. Now, Dred Scott was a Missouri slave whose master took him up to live in the Free States area for a time, and while there, Mr. Scott took his case all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States to sue for his freedom, to get his rights as a citizen. Well, the court denied his request. Said not only was he not a citizen in the court's eyes, but in the court's eyes he wasn't even a human being. He was merely the property of his owner, like a horse or a cow. I couldn't abide by that. This was the backdrop for the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858. Now, these debates were really something. J. Douglas, a former judge. Now, Judge Douglas would prance up and down the platform, waving the Dred Scott decision in my face. This is the law of the land. Well, Judge, it simply contradicts the Declaration of Independence. You know the one, Judge, where it says, all men are created equal. Now, Judge, it does not say all men are created equal except Negroes. Well, Mr. Lincoln liked Negroes so much, why doesn't he marry one? Now, Judge, just because I would not have a Negro woman as a slave does not necessarily mean I must have her for a wife. I could just leave her alone. Just as I would not be a slave, I would not be a master. That's my definition of democracy. Now, folks, Judge Douglas has criticized me, saying I used to work at a grocery store that sold whiskey. Well, my friends, that's true. But what he didn't tell you is he was my best customer. Now, I'd like to leave my fellow citizens with the following. You can fool all the people some of the time, some of the people all the time. But you can't fool all the people all the time. Thank you. Well, I lost. But these debates became so famous that folks were trying to talk me into running for president of the United States. Imagine a sucker like me president. But I had to admit the taste was in my mouth a little.